lo lisa shtei nashim. No. Ume'ata yesh lomar hada hitiru lisa al arusa. Why is it mutter to marry another woman if you already have an arusa? V'lo al haskuka. Okay, he's saying there's a stira here that they weren't matir to take another one on a skuka. Lo mishum d'darshu lashon hatakana inikret isha olo. So this was the approach of Rabbi Yaakov Emden. Okay, Rabbi Yaakov Emden said pilegesh is lo ishto, so there's no herem rabbeinu gershom. An arusa is lo ishto, skuka is lo ishto. So we have to, in every case, you have to define, is pilegesh considered ishto or not? So we talked about that, whether pilegesh needs a get, so we talked about that, right? So is arusato considered ishto? Is yivinto considered ishto? So he says, no, it doesn't depend on the formal status. Which is what Rabbi Yaakov Emden wants to say in the Shelat Yavitz. He wants to look at it formalistically. Since we don't like this hatakana anyway, because it's all Christian influence, let's be formalistic about it. It says, lo yikach isha al ishto. So that's ishto. It doesn't say, lo yikach pilegesh al ishto. It doesn't say, lo yikach arusa al ishto. So just havadul lo sifala. What is it called? Not damage management.
Damage control.
What? Damage control, right? Damage control. Let's limit herem gershom as much as we can, right? So he's saying no. He's saying it doesn't depend on the formal status. He says, Lo mishum d'darshu lashon hatakana inikret isha lo, ela azlinan batatama takana. Right? Igun mutar legaresh arusato bal korcha.
What's igun?
Kimvar b'maharik. Right? Bevadai lo gazar shemukrach l'chnos lachupa bal korcha. So, in other words, he can be megaresh arusato bal korcha because they were never mitaken that he has to be kones bal korcha. Right? To say you can't be megaresh, a man can't be megaresh arusato bal korcha would mean that he has to marry her. So you can't force somebody to marry, right? And then say, well, okay, then there'll be a case of igun. Not married, but it can't be megarish either. So it must be that you can be megarish and arusa bal korcha. Okay, and the herem of rabbeinu gershom not to be megarish bal korcha is only on ishto and not arusato, because it doesn't make sense to say that rabbeinu gershom machrim on lo legarish arusato bal korcha, because that would mean you're forcing him to marry, you're forcing him to do nisuin. There's no saying. Rabbeinu Gershom force somebody to do nisuin. He doesn't want to do nisuin, right? So that means he has to be megarish. He doesn't want. Too bad.
Yeah, but the poor arusa. She's
the poor arusa.
Bad mazel.
She's in a bad mazel, right? We're only talking about messy cases, right? Yeah. So, but the other side is that he doesn't want to marry her. He doesn't want nisuin. She's going to force him to do nisuin. He did kiddushin. Good. He changed his mind. Something came up. Whatever, right? He doesn't want to do nisuin. You can't force someone to do nisuin.
I'm confused. For her to get out, she needs to get at that point.
She needs to get.
But it's more than 4 months. It's totally unfair.
Why?
She's tied to him. She can never get out of it until they're married. But now you're saying they're not really married. He can reject her because.
But now, if he rejects her, so he's going to have to give her a get.
But what if he goes to the point where she refuses to take the get?
Oh, so that even is so we don't want that situation.
That's no man's land.
Right. So there.
You can't force her to take the get.
Right. So therefore, we say that he can force it to take the get. He can force it to take the get because you can't force him to marry her. Right. That takes precedence. Okay. So no. So listen how what he does here. So, but because he has an arusa here, who he can be megaresh bal korcha. Right? Therefore, there's no isser of taking another wife.
So he can actually marry the arusa.
So he can marry the arusa. You see what he does?
What?
Catch it? You caught it. Well, let's just read it. It's like very original. Okay? He says, Okay? So he says like this. The whole reason you have, the whole reason you have the Isur Lisa Shniya is because of the Isur Garesh Bal Korcha. But if you don't have the Isur Garesh Bal Korcha, there's no Isur Lisa Shniya. There's no Herem rabbeinu gershom.
What?
That's what he said before, right? Herem rabbeinu gershom was said originally Shelo Lisa Acheret. Shelo Garesh Bal Korcha. But if you have that situation that he can't be married Bal Korcha, he's going to be stuck with somebody who doesn't want. So say, okay, you don't want? Good. Go jump in the lake. I'm going to marry someone else. So Rabbeinu says, no, you can't marry someone else. Okay, that's how the relationship between the two haramim, according to what the Chasam Sofer says. So if the first situation doesn't apply, then the first herem doesn't apply, then the second herem doesn't apply. The first herem doesn't apply with an arusa. Because of course he should be able to megarish the arusa bal korcha. Because otherwise that would mean that she could force him to marry her. And that's not a tenable situation either, right? So since we don't force him to do nisuin, so you allow him to megarish her bal korcha. Since he can megarish her bal korcha, the second herem rabbeinu gershom doesn't apply. So since she's an arusa, he can marry her now, even though he has a skukah waiting for him.
So the black man doesn't work.
The black man doesn't work. Okay?
Bottom line, though, we can force women to do things we can't force men to do things.
Of course, that's
Okay. The second thing. All right, so we'll stop here with regards to that. Okay. Do you mind turning that off? I don't know. Or you can give it to me. All right, we're going to do some facilities here.